Welcome back, Focus Learners, to another explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating philosophical manifesto. It's called The Architecture of Individual Defiance. We're going to explore exactly what the author argues it takes to genuinely break away from the crowd. You know, in our hyper-connected modern world, it's just incredibly easy to drift along with everyone else, right? We've got algorithms gently nudging what we read, what we wear, and even how we think. Well, this text pushes back hard against all of that conformity. We'll be looking directly at the source material to decode the very specific and honestly highly demanding framework this author lays out for anyone seeking to truly set themselves apart from the rest of society.
Okay, let's dive into this. What makes you unique? It's such a common question, isn't it? But think about how we usually answer it. We typically point to our hobbies, our taste in music, our personal style, or, maybe even just a customized phone case. Society kind of encourages this sort of superficial uniqueness, the kind you can just quickly purchase or easily adopt to feel a little bit different, all while safely fitting in. But as we explore the source text today, I want you to adopt a more stoic, contemplative mindset. Strip away those superficial layers. What if our default path in life, that easy, comfortable route we all tend to walk, is exactly what strips away our true uniqueness? The author suggests that genuine individuality is something far deeper and far more costly.
Section 1. Defining true uniqueness. Uniqueness isn't an innate trait, but a deliberate choice to face friction.
That brings us to our first core theme in this manifesto. The fundamental argument here is that uniqueness is not some innate magical trait you're simply born with. It's not handed to you by chance. The author defines true uniqueness as the result of choosing to take difficult, unwanted paths. It posits that true uniqueness is forged exclusively by separating yourself from common thinking. So it's a highly deliberate and often painful choice to actively seek out and face friction. It's the active, daily decision to do the exact things that absolutely nobody else wants to do. It's like an architecture built entirely out of resistance, demanding a conscious departure from everything comfortable.
Let's move to Section 2, Facing the Physical Trials, and see how this builds.
Because the author doesn't just leave this as an abstract thought. They break it right down into tangible actions. This philosophy is deeply rooted in physical struggle. The text demands that you fight the battles that no one wants to fight. It pushes you to ride the tides that no one wants to ride. You must deliberately choose to swim the waters that no one wants to swim, and you must struggle for the things that no one wants to struggle for. The absolute requirement here is stepping into the arena of visceral hardship that the rest of the world actively avoids. Why physical trials? Because according to the text, abstract ideas just aren't enough to separate you from the pack. The crowd is comfortable. To physically engage with difficulty is to physically tear yourself away from that comfort. It's a literal manifestation of defiance.
Ultimately, it all distills down to this overarching physical mandate. Do the things that no one wants to do. It's a heavy directive. It requires you to be the anomaly in the room, carrying the weight that everyone else has consciously decided to drop. Imagine a workplace scenario where a complex, deeply flawed process is failing. Everyone complains about it, but no one wants to take on the massive, thankless job of fixing it because, well, it's tedious and offers no immediate glory. According to this framework, stepping up to take on that exact burden, doing what no one else wants to do, is the very action that begins to construct your individual uniqueness. You bear the weight others avoid.
Section 3, The Mindset of Defiance. Here, we shift the focus from external physical actions to the internal mental shifts required for non-conformity. You see, the architecture of defiance isn't built with just the body. It requires a profound corresponding shift in the mind. The external actions we just covered are entirely hollow without a shift in internal philosophy. Defying the crowd is an intensely lonely intellectual exercise. You have to observe the things that no one wants to observe. You have to open your eyes to the uncomfortable truths people usually ignore. You must ask the questions that no one wants to ask, the ones that disrupt the peace of the room and challenge accepted norms. And mentally, as much as physically, you must stand up when no one wants to stand. It is a strict commitment to solitary vigilance, refusing to let your mind be lulled to sleep by the consensus of the group.
And this brilliantly illustrates perhaps the starkest philosophical turning point in the text, the mandate to choose to suffer when no one cares. Wow. Think about that. This isn't about performing your struggle for an audience. It's not about gaining sympathy, going on social media to document your hardships, or waiting for a round of applause. It is about embracing an invisible, uncelebrated suffering, simply because it's the necessary fuel for your own personal defiance. Why is invisible suffering so integral to this philosophy?
Well, because if you only endure hardship when people are watching, your actions are still being dictated by the crowd. You're still seeking their validation. To suffer when no one cares proves that your uniqueness is self-directed and entirely independent of society's gaze.
To really cement this, the author provides a clear comparison. On the left, we have the default reality for the general mass, following the crowd and relying on common thinking. It's safe, it's normal, and it is heavily populated. In this default mode, life is relatively predictable. You don't face the intense friction of swimming upstream, and there's a profound psychological comfort in knowing that thousands of others are doing exactly what you are doing. On the right, we have the defiant, taking your own decisions, thinking differently, and simply being different. Now, we aren't here to judge either side, but the source text is incredibly clear. These two paths absolutely cannot coexist in one person. You are either defaulting to the comfort of the crowd, or you are continuously enduring the friction required to construct a defiant life.
Section 4. Separating from the mass. So, the crucial point is, what is the ultimate reward and transformation promised by the author?
Where does all of this unwanted struggle, this questioning, and this suffering actually lead? It leads right to this realization. If I want to fight the fights that nobody wants to fight, if I want to ride the tides that nobody wants to ride, if I want to swim the waters that nobody wants to swim, if I want to struggle for the things that nobody wants to struggle, then I have separated myself from the general mass. It is a rhythm of earned isolation. That word earned is absolutely key here. The separation isn't a byproduct of simply declaring yourself a rebel. No, it is the direct, hard-won result of the continuous physical and mental trials you have actively chosen to endure. You have bought your separation through sheer effort.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that the author doesn't view this separation as a tragedy, a punishment, or some lonely exile to be pitied. Actually, quite the opposite. In the context of this manifesto, being separated from the general mass is the ultimate achievement. It is the very definition of success. It means you have successfully built your own architecture. You've detached your identity and your choices from the collective, achieving a state of complete self-ownership that the text argues is literally impossible while still standing safely within the crowd.
And here is the final destination visually mapped out. You leave the general mass and common thinking behind on the left, and through your deliberate struggles, you arrive at a unique position on the right. Looking back over the framework we've unpacked, it's a really rigorous journey. It starts by redefining uniqueness not as a quirk, but as a willingness to face friction. It moves through the demanding physical trials of doing what others avoid, and requires the mental fortitude to question what others just blindly accept, even when absolutely no one is watching or cheering you on. The author specifically notes that this final destination places you apart from society. You are no longer governed by its default settings. You've achieved true uniqueness by fundamentally refusing to be the same.
Which brings us to the end of our explainer today, and leaves us with one final, unavoidable question staring back at us from the source material. We know what the architecture looks like now. We know the heavy cost of construction, and we understand the philosophical demands of genuine defiance. So the question isn't really whether you can be unique, but rather, will you fight the battles no one wants to fight? I'll leave you to think on that. Keep learning, keep questioning, and we'll see you in the next explainer.